Hey Squids, I wanted to talk to you guys about how expensive it is to run a motorcycle instead of a car. A lot of people I see a lot of times on groups and they go, man, I'm going to save so much money on gas riding a motorcycle. But there are hidden costs. And that's what we're going to talk about today in this video. The hidden costs of motorcycles. Sure, motorcycles are much cheaper than cars, but there are some things that you have to consider. First, there is the cost of a motorcycle. I buy my motorcycles used, so oftentimes I don't have to finance any of the bikes that I've ever owned. I bought the few that were new, but generally I like to just get used bikes. Like this V-Strom, you can get the V-Strom 650 like this for around $3,000. Another thing that I see people talk about is how much money they're going to be saving on gas. And it is true, motorcycles are very drifty. And you can get 50, 60 miles per gallon on a motorcycle. Even a sport bike, they're very drifty. But oftentimes on a sport bike or a bike that's very fun, you tend to ride it a little bit harder. So it's going to be getting like 30, 40 miles per gallon in the twisties. So you are going to be spending a little bit of money on that. If you ride a DL650 or a scooter, for example, a scooter will get like 100 miles per gallon. This DL650 will get you 60 miles per gallon if you're careful. So they do get better gas mileage than most cars, but for example, when you consider a Prius will get 60 miles per gallon, 50, 60, even the newer Priuses will get like 80 miles per gallon in the city. So it used to be a time when that made a lot more sense. It's like, oh yeah, if you have your car that gets like 10 miles per gallon, of course you're going to save some money on gas. I also consider that a lot of motorcycles now require premium, especially sport bikes. Another thing you're going to be spending money on that a lot of people don't take into account is gear. A motorcycle helmet, a good quality motorcycle helmet, is going to cost you $200 to $1,000. Generally, a $200 helmet is going to be very good. A lot of it has to do more with comfort. The higher end makes like Shoei, Arai, they can cost like $600, $700, $1,000, depending on the graphics and stuff that you get. But don't neglect the safety gear. You're going to need the helmet. You're going to need gloves. These are extremely good held gloves that I got from my buddy in Utah when I rode there. He gave me these really good gloves to ride. And gloves are very important because the first thing that happens if you crash, and you don't want to crash, is you're going to put your hands out. It helps to have some really good gloves with leather, knuckle protection right here. You know, just everything should be substantial, wrist protection. You need good gloves. Motorcycle jacket. Get a good leather jacket. I've had this one ever since I started riding motorcycles. And I bought it a little bit larger size than I am, because I wanted to be able to ride it in the winter as well and use layers underneath so I would fit. I liked leather because it just lasts a really long time. I've had Cordura and textile jackets and they always look great. I prefer the look of these textile jackets, but I find they don't last very long. If you get a leather jacket, that's pretty much all the gear that you need for the rest of your life. Like, they just last an extremely long amount of time. This one is a Joe Rocket. It's not like one of the best brands ever. One of the things I find, all the zippers have fallen off and I've had to like put zippers in there. But it's a good jacket and it helps to have a leather jacket like this that's it's got vents, so you can, like, in the summer you can just open it up and have some ventilation in the jacket. Oftentimes when you buy a motorcycle jacket, you don't have enough gear in the back. It usually doesn't come with a back protector. So this is a back protector that you can usually just get online. And this just fits into the back of your jacket. And it's always good to have some aftermarket back protector. And there's usually a slot in there that you can put this on. Another thing you might need are pants. And these are just Joe Rocket pants. Normally, if you get the same brand, you can attach it to the jacket using a zipper. I prefer leather pants, but I often find that I don't like going to restaurants and stuff like that. Wearing leather pants, it looks kind of weird. So another thing you could possibly get for your legs are jean pants. They have protection in the knee and in the butt in case you fall. Instead of textile, I would recommend getting some leather pants. They're much better in the event of crashing because leather, if you get dragged along the road, which is going to happen, you're not going to have your skin. You'll have this skin to protect you. And these generally come with a lot of protection in the knees and in the lower legs, and protection in the hips, and reinforced in the back and your butt. One thing that riders need to do when they're riding is be visible. And you can improve your visibility by having something like this. This is just a vest that goes over your motorcycle jacket. And this one's kind of good because it's got a first aid kit right here and this for an ID. It's kind of like a military version of a safety vest, but this really kind of helps having cars see you. If you're a commuter, this is an extremely important thing to have. Another bit of gear that's always avoided in motorcycling is boots. Having good boots is very important. These are very old and I prefer different types of boots now with more protection, but these are like CD Sympatex boots. They're really good, they're very high, but they don't offer a lot of protection up here. And I recommend you guys to get a boot that's got a lot of protection in the ankles and the toes, just reinforced everywhere. I've seen road riders that use MX motocross boots, and those work pretty well. This is a touring boot that I've had for a long time. The stitching has come off. I do like the looks of it, and I think I bought it mainly for the looks, but it's not held up during the years. That is just some of the gear that you need. So those are some of the gear associated motorcycle expenses that people tend to neglect. So not only you have the cost of the motorcycle, you also have the gear. In addition to the motorcycle, you have the maintenance. And generally, maintenance on a motorcycle can get very expensive. New riders tend to take bikes to the shop quite often, and they're going to find that motorcycle shops tend to be almost like con artists. A motorcycle is much easier to work on than a car, but yet motorcycle shops charge more to work on bikes than they do cars. Keep that in mind. The best thing you could possibly do in the beginning and starting out is to do your own maintenance. An oil change once in a while, it's very simple to do. But if you take a motorcycle in a metro area like DC, you're going to spend like $200 right it off in the beginning for an oil change and for a checkup. People tend to take advantage of motorcycle riders. Motorcycle demands a whole lot more maintenance than a car. The oil frequency intervals are a lot shorter, so you have to make sure that you're on top of maintenance. In addition to that, you also have a chain. Then you have to change every like 15, 20,000 miles, depending on how hard you ride. And generally, you have to change it with the sprockets. So that could be like a $200 fee just for the sprockets, in addition to the labor. There's oil changes. I usually change the oil on my bikes every 5,000 miles. There are valve adjustments. This is something that not a lot of car drivers going into motorcycling know about, but oftentimes on some bikes you have to adjust the valves very often. On my Ninja 250, I had to adjust it every 6,000 miles, and on this, you barely have to adjust it because the motor is like so robust. BMWs with the boxer engines to the side are very easy to adjust. Cycle shop will probably do it for like $600, $700. It's very expensive. It is also very time consuming. I don't like doing it, but that's why I picked the DL650. It's very, even though it requires adjustments every 12,000 miles, most of the time you don't need to do it. the cost of insurance. Insurance costs a little bit more for motorcycling, especially if you're a male that's like in their 20s. It's going to cost quite a bit more. Another thing with motorcycles is that on a car you change your tires every 50,000 miles. On a motorcycle, a sport bike, I used to change it every 5,000 to 6,000 miles in the rear. The front generally lasts a little bit longer, but the rears, they go out pretty fast. And that's the reason, if you look on my bike, I have a dark side tire that is a car tire on a motorcycle. It's kind of a controversial thing, but for me, since I ride quite a bit, and I do wish that I started doing this early, this definitely brings the cost down of riding for me, because I don't have to put my motorcycle all the time and change tires. But generally, if you get a sport bike, you're going to get 5,000 per rear of a motorcycle tire. On a dual sport like this with a regular tire, I was getting 10,000 miles. So because of lower power, lower weight, it doesn't waste the tire as much. But you will be changing your tires quite a bit. And if you take your tires and your bike to a shop, it's going to cost quite a bit of money. In the DC metro area, you're spending $60, $70 for the tire change, in addition to the motorcycle tire. And it costs more to take the bike to the shop for them to change the tire, so they generally charge like $100 per tire. So this is one of the reasons that you need to start doing your own maintenance. If you have a motorcycle and you take the motorcycle to a shop, it's going to exceed the cost of a car. An economy car was going to cost you much less than keeping a motorcycle if you take your motorcycle to the shop. Generally, I don't have to do a lot of maintenance on my Suzuki DL650 because it's so reliable and it doesn't need a lot of work. You know, there is the difference between like getting the motorcycle and the gear. That's a one-time cost. But keeping a motorcycle running and running well, it's a regular maintenance schedule that you have to do. I do recommend, if you don't like doing maintenance, to get a zero electric motorcycle. I've ridden one of those and they're much better for just riding every day and not changing the oil and all of these things. You don't have to do any of that with an electric motorcycle. I do feel like we're kind of set back a little bit with motorcycling because we ride quite long distances. So a zero electric motorcycle is not perfect for me yet, but I would love to own an electric motorcycle one day. Alright guys, thanks for watching. And if you like this video, make sure you subscribe and hit that little bell for notifications. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next video.